third game in running with SCIS's controversial Postal series is finally among us. After repeated release date pushbacks, the game, which originally slated for a 2009 release, is now in our hands. But does the game have what it takes to stand out like its predecessor in a world of overflowing, controversial, violent video games? Postal 3 takes place after the second game's Apocalypse Weekend expansion, and continues the story as the postal dude leaves his hometown of Paradise and moves to the next town over, Catharsis. Out of petrol and money, the dude must find a job. Starting out in a pawn shop, the dude is issued a task of cleaning used tissues, which then need to be used later to scare off a mob of angry hockey mums bent on destroying the shop. The game has a branching storyline, allowing you to either go completely insane and take the bad path, or become a model citizen and even join the police force. The game encourages you to do the good path, regardless of it being increasingly difficult to not want to shoot someone in the face. There are quite a few celebrity roles in the game, including porn star Ron Jeremy, Village People cowboy Randy Jones, and Playboy girl Jennifer Walcott. Also making an appearance, but not voiced by themselves, are Osama bin Laden and director of infamously bad video game movies, including the Postal movie, Uwe Boll. The game has two different plots depending on which path you take, and it will require a couple of playthroughs to see everything that the game's got to offer. It shouldn't take you too long, as the game probably takes about as long as a Call of Duty campaign to finish. Good Path seems to be the longest and most flashed out though. The storytelling is done with pre-rendered cutscenes with a grindhousey film effect, which can actually become rather annoying, and possibly only exists to cover the fact that the cutscenes actually look worse than the actual gameplay. It suffers from a low resolution and the occasional frame rate issue. That's right, frame rate issues in a pre-rendered cutscene. So Postal 3's gameplay seems to be a hybrid of the first and the second Postal games. The original Postal was an isometric shooter. You'd run around a map and kill a set number of targets before moving on to the next map. Postal 2 basically gave you the whole of the Paradise town to explore, and it would give you a series of tasks each day to do however you pleased, and basically throughout the game you would unlock more areas of the town that you could visit. Now the third game basically puts you into a map which is a fairly decent size to roam around, and basically it'll give you a set of tasks. You complete those tasks in that level and then you'll move on to another level. It does have a free roam option after you finish the game, which will basically allow you to walk freely between the maps. Of course there's a loading screen in between each one, which can get a bit tedious, but it at least solves the problem of people wanting to free roam the game. So Postal 3 follows the series tradition of changing style for each game. This time it takes a third-person perspective, allowing you to see all of the dude's actions. It does come at a cost though. Jumping and crouching have been removed, and they replaced it with a cover system which you'll probably find yourself not using too much. And also other actions don't seem to work at all. Meleeing in particular, you'll have a hard time actually trying to hit anything when you melee a bit, punching, kicking, hitting with a shovel. Most of the fun in Postal comes from the variety of its over-the-top weaponry. In this one it ranges from crotch-shaped dolls filled with plutonium to badgersaurs and AIDS-infected monkeys. Unfortunately, if you take the good path, you'll often find yourself reduced to simply using the taser to either knock people unconscious or stun and arrest them. While there is some mission variety, for the most part you'll find that the missions involve taking out a set number of enemies before moving to a set place on the map. With the large arsenal the dude can seem to fit in his rather awesome coat, it doesn't seem to get that boring. To say that Postal 3 is the best looking game of 2011 would be a massive overstatement. The game was originally revealed back in 2007, and as such it suffers from the same fate as Duke Nukem Forever. The game looks dated from the start. Fortunately for Postal 3, it takes a much more stylized approach to its design, and it also runs on Valve's Source engine, which still manages to hold up today. Even if it doesn't have the graphics of other Source games like Portal 2, it's not going to make you gouge your eyes out. Well, the cutscenes might. The game originally came out in December 2011, and there were a lot of bugs in it, including an issue where no music would play. This left the whole experience feeling rather empty. But after loading it up again last week, I discovered that there'd been a patch, and the previously silent main menu began to play some music, which I'd only heard before in the credits. Still some issues which haven't been fixed and probably never will be. The dude makes no footstep noises when you run in, and fire doesn't seem to make any noise. Certain weapons can also make some headache-inducing sounds, such as the cats growl every single time you select the weapon, and because the weapon selection works as just scrolling through weapons, since there's too many for you to actually bind to every key. You'll often hear a lot of these noises, way too much. The dude has a new voice actor in the game who actually manages to pull off the role incredibly well. Other voices, however, have a lot to be desired. I will let this slide though, as it does fit the grindhouse style of the cutscenes. The Postal series has always been a love it or hate it kind of thing. This is a game that will appeal to Postal fans. If you're not a fan of Postal, you'd probably be better off skipping this one, which is a fairly easy thing to do since it's a Steamworks game and you still can't purchase it on Steam even though it requires Steam activation. Postal 3 is a fun game in the right hands, but its poor Russian development and technical issues are its shortcoming. 6 out of 10.